I'm Bridget. And this is Squawking Fallout, where we talk about everything related to Fallout. Thought we covered Walking Dead? You're wrong. We cover this now. That was a great intro, Dave.
We are Squawking Dead. Podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we slight Bridget. I'm your host, David Cameo.
That is most times.
And I'm joined by Cosmos09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, aka Blazing Gardner, Bridget, ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster, that's PUNKYBRUISETER, and of course, Karina Davey, who you can reach on Instagram at CARINAE_D. Today, we're here to talk about Fallout's 4th episode titled The Ghouls, which is pretty accurate.
Is it Ghouls?
No, it's The Ghouls, yeah.
Ghouls.
Another one with the wrong titles.
Plural.
Well, that's dumb. Anyway.
Is it though?
Why? There's a lot of ghouls in it.
More than
a
lot of ghouls.
I guess it's fine.
We should get...
Immediately.
Why doesn't Riverside have a virtual filter that shows us all with no nose and we'll all be the ghouls?
Well, damn, Bridget, you wrote it. Why'd you call it this?
Yeah.
I didn't. Didn't.
You got outvoted.
And we'll find out why she didn't write this.
It was the network. They came in and they
They
added
stopped
an
me.
S.
They pulled back my ideal vision of this show.
They're like, there's
They were
more
like,
than one.
add an S to
we
that.
need an S.
Also, they made ass jerky out of my script.
Oh, gosh.
Smas.
We released some new merch. Get your very own Squawk Tech t-shirt, as well as our Squawking Fallout logo design. The Squawk Tech t-shirt comes in 2 colorways. Yellow accents with blue background is the default color, and the other colorway is a blue accent with a yellow background.
You know what? Go to the website and figure it out.
Well, it's showing on the screen right now, probably.
just look with your eyes.
If you're lost, head over to squawkingdead.com, hit the main menu in the top left, and choose merch. Taking a break from the Fallout coverage, we may have a date for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon's Season 2 premiere, which may be the weekend of the 8th, 9th, or...
I know, Dave.
Now, that could be the advanced screening at the Tribeca Film Festival.
It's probably the next weekend, because that's what happened the last time.
And the reason why that could be is because the very next weekend is Father's Day, and who is Norman Reedus if not a daddy?
Yeah.
Aren't the kids saying zaddy now? Which I still don't know what that means.
That's
definitely,
Pedro Pascal.
Definitely not a zaddy.
I don't even know what that means.
The difference is a zaddy is a daddy with style.
So Pedro Pascal is often referred to as a zaddy.
Okay, that makes
But
sense.
why is it zaddy? I don't understand where the z...
Because he's
kind of like zhuzhed.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's kind of like if you say daddy like this, he's a zaddy. So it kind of turned into zaddy.
Ew.
I like zhuzh better.
Really
a
uncomfortable.
zhuzh daddy.
Yeah. Well, how do you think I feel? We'll never be called a zaddy. Isn't that sad?
I
Or
call
daddy.
my father dad. I'm not calling another... That's just... Oh.
Where's this going?
I don't...
Yes.
I mean, we said it a lot about Father Gabriel.
You certainly did.
Called him Daddy Gabriel's confessional booth.
Daddy Gabriel's. I forgot about it.
What we did not call him is Zaddy. And that's
I
fine.
forgot it was
That's
Daddy
okay.
Gabriel's confessional booth.
I might have said Daddy Gabriel just in the like father, but not like in a ooh way.
Not in a zaddy way.
Not in a
Ooh, zaddy. Ooh.
Well, in other news, I was going to go to New York and I would have been there for that weekend.
If it wasn't for those pesky kids.
It wasn't for those pesky kids and their stupid dog too. But
CX404.
Dave and I were going to do Brooklyn Comic-Con for Squawking Dead. And then Brooklyn Comic-Con, no offense if you're listening, anyone from it, but like it kind of looks like a bust. So then we weren't going to go. And so I was like, I'm not going to book my plane ticket. And now what's happening?
That very weekend is that early screening at Tribeca Film
and I'm
Festival.
furious. And I already said, Dave, if I don't go, will you give me swag? And he didn't respond. He just straight up did not respond to that.
I said, if there is, which there probably won't be, sure, it's yours. My swag is your swag.
I don't want to order it on eBay again, Dave.
What can I do about it? Nothing.
I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to that premiere. So,
What?
yes.
The digs just keep coming.
Sorry.
I'll be in Virginia on the 8th. So that's what's even worse is I'm like
we'll be
I'm like
not in Virginia.
further north. I'm further north than I could just go up to New York, but
It's like
keep
what,
going.
like 5 or 6 hours for us from where we're at in Virginia. So that's where we're
it's
going.
a nice drive.
but I don't even know if I could get a ticket to it. We talked about it. But
And I still have to.
Well,
get
also
them,
the
'cause I
problem
forgot.
is there's no hotels available anywhere because there's a concert happening. I forget who it is. It's like a famous country star.
Rascal Flats.
I don't know if it's that one, but and so all of the hotels we normally stay at were completely booked, and then we finally I just kept checking over and over again to see if there was a room, and it's like twice as much as it normally is, and I'm like, you guys you're a Super 8 and I'm paying almost $300 for one night at a Super 8.
Like in the middle of Times Square.
Yeah,
That sounds
it's
horrible.
ridiculous.
Midtown.
It's not even. It's in the Meadowlands, which is in New Jersey.
Oh,
So I have to ride the bus to get to New York. But yeah, it's the cheapest place I could find.
Oh, that hurts my head.
I get such bad FOMO over those advanced screenings that I'm like, should I?
You
Should
try.
I just
do
should I
it.
just go? Should
Live
I
your
just
best
go
life,
up there?
Bridget.
I mean, we'll be there. Me and David are going. So yeah.
Wow.
Come on.
Karina, I thought you were a good guy.
Since when? When did I say that?
The evil playthrough. Well, speaking of evil playthroughs, this episode,
Entitled The Ghouls.
right, the Ghouls Zaddy.
The Ghouls Zaddy.
You're welcome, America.
Oh my
slash
gosh.
internet.
I really enjoyed this one. A little twinge at the end when he saw himself on the tape. I enjoyed actually that it was mostly Vault and Lucy centered. I like Maximus's storyline, but I prefer this one. They have to be Fear the Walking Dead fans. I'm just going to say it because we had Martha, right?
Martha.
We had
The ghoul,
rhubarb pie,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and we had finger cutting.
Oh yeah.
We
Oh, yeah.
retaliatory
Biting and cutting.
finger cutting.
Maybe
Now I got to look
the
into
writers
it.
from Fear used Fallout as their inspiration,
I don't know that this was in the games in any capacity.
especially because it's all nuclear for like so long in Fear. It feels
sure.
like an
I
eternity.
remember mentioning that I felt like that season of Fear felt like Fallout after the bombs
Yeah.
fell and everything.
I also
There we
feel
go.
like with the ghouls, that is what it's like to be on set with people dressed as walkers. They're
Yeah.
walking and talking, just talking normally, and they're walking around
Yeah.
and doing things, but they're still all disgusting looking
Thank you.
to be on the set with people
be on
dressed
set.
in walker costumes.
What if they had a gig for Dead City and they just had to run to it? So
Oh
they're like,
gosh.
I gotta make this Dead City shoot. Oh yeah, same clothing, same everything.
Everything.
Saved a little money on that
Are
one.
they anywhere near the
Brand.
Donner Pass?
Yes. Are we talking about ghoul jerky at all? Is that what
Yeah,
that's in reference
exactly.
to? Okay, gotcha. Makes sense now.
Oh, party of
Yeah. Donner
Got it.
party.
gotcha.
Why would he eat his friend or make jerky out of his friend? He's survived longer than everyone else for a reason. All the other ghouls, supposedly. Does consuming that ghoul flesh help him retain his sanity in some way? Like because it's so saturated in that drug, maybe? Is that
I
the
have
reason?
a theory. I have a theory about
I
this.
want to hear it.
Okay. For those of you who watch wrestling, you're going to know what I'm talking about right now. So in wrestling, steroids are considered foul play unless you're Randy Orton, and then it doesn't matter.
You get a free pass.
Yep. Everybody else will get fired except for you. But in order to get around this, people will eat horse meat that is pumped with steroids.
That is doped.
Huh.
Doped horse meat.
Yes, because it like doesn't show up on the test, I guess. Anyway, so that's what it made me think of. You're still getting the residual effects of the meds or the drugs, but you're like able to ingest it that way because he doesn't have
Yeah.
access to it.
That's what I was thinking might be the reason that he's been more successful than others is like he's found ways around it and they're kind of unsavory, but they're effective.
Didn't that first friend say that he just started showing 28 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, like he just started showing as a ghoul.
Can you turn into a ghoul, or is this something that you are at the beginning of the apocalypse?
I think it's always presented as if the ghouls have been around for that long, but essentially it's from a massive dose of radiation. So assuming there's radiation everywhere and you're getting irradiated all the time, I don't think it's impossible to become a ghoul later on, a vault dweller, for example.
Especially if you're in a place where a bomb actually fell, I'm sure is more irradiated than...
Right,
than
yeah.
others
No,
or
I
whatever,
think it's
so.
totally possible.
And I think the show was going out of its way to say, no, Cooper Howard is the aberration.
Yeah.
No ghoul has really been alive as long as he has.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I think they're...
Yeah, so that's really what they're establishing, the parameters.
There are definitely ghouls in the games that for sure have been around since the beginning. So Eddie Winter is one of them. He built himself a shelter to ride it out in and voluntarily became a ghoul so that he would be able to live long past everyone else. You encounter him in Fallout 4. I'm sure there are others. I can't think of any others off the top of my head that have been around that long, but it's definitely suggested that ghouls, especially ones that are not feral, have been around since before the bombs fell, because they talk about life before, what things were like back then. There's plenty of unexploded bombs around that they could come in contact with. There's one in Megaton in Fallout 3 that you can choose to detonate or not. Actually, that does answer our question. So if you choose to detonate the bomb in Fallout 3, there is a character named Moira who will come back as a ghoul.
So you mean there's a character before the bomb goes off? She's a normal person.
She's normal.
But then
Yeah, she's
after
normal.
the bombs go off, you find her as a ghoul.
She's one of the first NPCs that you can interact with in Fallout 3. And actually, this whole episode is very similar to that storyline and that mission that she gives you. She's trying to write the Wasteland Survival Guide, which is skill books that you can find in later games. Basically, just finding out, are supermarkets a good place to go to get resources? Are
Super duper markets?
Super Duper Mart, yeah. She sends you to a Super Duper Mart, and that's your kind of first introduction to the world, and you get to experience a little bit of everything there. So you can hack a computer, you can pick some locks, you can take out some raiders, you can disarm some traps, you encounter some robots. A little bit of everything happens in that mission. For doing it, you help her write the Wasteland Survival Guide, and she also awards you with, I think, an armored vault suit. Possibly.
Oh, that sounds cool.
I don't remember if I'm conflating that with New Vegas, because I knew you get an armored vault suit in New Vegas, but I thought that was interesting that this entire episode revolves around a Super Duper Mart, and that's one of the main first missions. But yeah, Moira is a regular person. Some people find her annoying. I think she's a little endearing. She's like so optimistic and bubbly, which is so different from most other characters that you will see in the games who, you know, they got a chip on their shoulder because life is hard.
She's in the Wasteland, or is she a vault dweller?
She is a Wastelander. She lives in Megaton and she runs the general store. So you go to her for supplies, for healing, for all kinds of stuff.
What a contrast to Ma June.
Yeah.
Get the F out of here.
Yeah, a much happier version. You can go to her. I remember she asks you to go irradiate yourself so that she can find out like what kinds of treatments are better and stuff like that. And then she asks you to get a crippled limb and return to her to test out if her healing stuff works really good. And I remember she tells you, I stitched a smiley face in your arm to cheer you up.
The robot was the embodiment of her because he was intolerably cheerful throughout the entire thing.
Sort of. I mean, kind of. So Mr. Handies are like that anyway. They're just this very canned, optimistic response type of thing. But Moira is annoying to another level. So yeah, if you choose to detonate the bomb in Megaton, she'll be the only survivor in there, but she's a ghoul afterwards. So you can't...
And she's happy about it,
she's
basically.
Still, yeah, super optimistic about it. And she's like, well, now I can heal quicker or something. I don't remember what her response is, but she's not really fazed by it at all. So if you're trying to get rid of her because you know you're willing to blow up a whole town to get rid of this NPC, it doesn't work. So yeah, that answers our question. Yes, in the games, you can become a ghoul after the fact. It doesn't have to have happened right then.
Well, two things. I wanted to go back to the ass jerky thing because of what you guys said about the horse doping.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense actually because your fat cells will store some of those nutrients for much longer.
Okay,
even toxins. And if we're assuming that the vials that the ghouls drink are full of toxins that regular humans wouldn't even dare to
probably
consume.
not.
So those would be most likely stored in fat cells rather than in the bloodstream, etc. So it would kind of make sense that they would tear some ass jerky and hopefully get some of that residual toxic chemicals. Secondly, going to Francisco in the chat, the less of Maximus gameplay, the better, I say. Not a fan of the mid gameplay.
boo.
That's okay.
The neutral.
For the same reasons as Sharon Day, I think it's also good to kind of focus on at least one storyline only to avoid the Game of Thrones effect where you feel like you have to keep several or season 8 of The Walking Dead where you have to keep several plot lines in the air and get to all of them, hopefully, within a single episode.
I mean, flipping back and forth between the Vault and Lucy was okay. You got to have a little breakup in between. Maximus just isn't my favorite. I mean, he's all right. It's nothing. It's like I don't like it. It's just I find her story much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then also it doesn't hurt that by the end there is a sort of thread that connects the two different storylines that will converge at some point, hopefully, maybe, and that's Rose McClane. And what Vault 32 had to do to survive, or 31 or 32. There's a lot going on here. Francisco also says in the chat, I think they retconned the way ghouls get affected by radiation. They have to eat their own kind to stay well without turning into feral ghouls. It seems like that measure is not a good fix-all, but it will get you by, maybe.
Yeah.
The ass jerky. He obviously is in a bad way. And he puts on a tough face in front of Lucy at the time. But then he just starts to fall apart.
Yeah, he literally waits for her to get inside and then he just passes out right afterwards, the second she's indoors.
It's actually interesting to think about, though. Why? Why does he put on a tough face? Does he not want to give her the satisfaction?
So she won't try to
He doesn't want her to, like, get away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she does.
If she thinks he's
away last
weak,
time.
she'll kick his butt and leave.
Yeah, she used the one opportunity we had a coughing fit and she immediately started to run away. So if he shows weakness or that he's distracted by his state, then she's going to get the upper hand on him.
Or that does kind of go to what Norm says in the vaults when he's having that conversation with Betty Pearson, who is like sort of this mom overseer from the council. When she's talking to him, they seem to be somewhat simpler, although they take different approaches. I mean, it's why she doesn't go for overseer in a sense, or she's not running for overseer. She, like Norm, knows that true power lies behind the scenes. When you can see things for what they are, more or less, and she sees in him, so you're angry, huh? Essentially. Why are you angry? Oh, because I hid when other people are dying around me, and I'm ashamed. I'm angry. I'm angry at myself. You're acknowledging your weakness, and you feel like you want to do something about that. There's a little parallel there.
I did enjoy, like Sharon brought up the little twinge at the end with Cooper seeing one of his old films, the one he had been working on.
The original sin of weakness.
You know, that's the one with the,
Do I have
the
to
shooting
shoot him?
the guy. Yeah, it just makes you really feel for him. I'd just spoken to someone last week before we recorded, and he had watched episode 4, and he had said, the one thing I don't understand about that show is how is Cooper not the hero? How is he not your main character? How is he not your main protagonist? Because really, it's meant to be Lucy. But I really enjoyed that thought process because I was like, you do just want to like him. Yeah, okay, Walton Goggins is great, right? And that has a lot to do with it probably, but
in the first scene, that's the first thing we see is his past. So they smuggle. You know what? I wished we talked about this in the first episode. They're smuggling in the feelings for him right from the start, so that when you see him be an awful human, well, what was once a human being, not a smoothie, which I love
smoothies. Smoothies, smooth skin.
It's like walkers and biters and growlers. We've got smoothies and
or humans.
it just makes me think of people being smooth brains. Like, when that's all I made me think of.
That's funny.
Yeah. So they smuggle in this premise, and then it's in the back of your brain like a headache that just won't go away, and you can't not see him that way anymore. Every awful thing he does has this tinge of, well, he's going to be good, right? He's going to turn it around.
Easy.
It's hard because you're like, well, that's not like something a good person would do. So.
Selling a girl to some drug people doesn't seem like heroic to me.
But you still want to like him for whatever reason, which that's the whole point of these kind of
the
stories.
trope would be for him to watch himself on the screen and suddenly remember what a great guy he used to be and turn it. But I can guarantee you that's not what they're going to do.
No.
If anything, it's probably going to make him be
thinking.
more of a jerk. He's going to be like, oh man, I can't be that guy anymore.
This is like if we saw Negan's backstory first. We always said if we started the show with him, he would be our good guy. We saw
with the exception of the coercing women thing.
Right.
There are definitely downfalls. We got to see where Cooper came from, so we have more sympathy for him now.
Dave, you were just saying, like, I don't think that's what he's thinking about. I think when you really take a look at Cooper, I think it more has to do with the fact that he's been alive for so long. And yet again, I'm going to bring up this whole vampire trope thing because it's very much playing into the same thing. But these people don't mean as much to him because you have this tiny, insignificant life. I've been here for 200 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
I have
jaded.
all of these years and all of these people have died in front of me,
including Roger,
and around me. And so you just don't matter as much anymore.
I've seen 200 years of people being the worst people they can be. He came from civilization, and now he's watching civilization, but it's not really civilization.
Right.
I think it's easy to say like, oh, he's a
not
bad
civil.
guy and I'm just going to put him into that bad guy camp.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove, who wouldn't be after 200 years alive in that dystopian society?
That's the point he tries to make to Lucy too. He's like, I'm you, give it some time.
Give it time.
Yeah. And then at the
Yeah.
end, she decides, I might end up looking like you, but I'm not going to be like you. And proves that by giving him those vials that he needs.
He said give it time. He didn't say give it like 3 hours, girl.
Yeah. 3 hours. Yeah.
Right.
She's still very green when it comes to being in the wasteland. This is her first mission right out of the vault. Technically, she's had to go in and take care of herself and get out of that situation on her own without anyone coming to rescue her this time. There's no knight in shining armor to swoop in and protect her from the violence that's happening. She had to figure it out herself, and she had to finally use a lethal weapon for the first time. Obviously, she didn't want to, and she tried not to, but she had to do it, and so she learned. So she thinks she knows who she is, but I think she still has more to learn, for sure.
I think the Ghouls just the worst of the good guys.
Yeah, there's like a spectrum. There's a range.
Yeah.
We're the best of the bad guys.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's the case too.
Well,
He did show compassion when he shot his friend. Like, yes, he ate him, but
Distracted him first.
Right.
Yeah, it gave him a good
Well,
memory.
no offense, but what does it matter after you're dead? I know that's a weird thing to say because we don't eat people.
Some cultures feel like the
show
body should
world.
be kept intact, so it
I
could
think
be
almost
disrespectful.
all cultures,
But I
except
think
for a few.
True. I mean, I guess for me personally, I don't care after because
I
I'm no
don't
longer in my
either.
body. So whatever
Yeah.
happens to it, I don't really care. I'm not.
You know,
That's
that's
how
in
I
my
feel
will,
about it.
right? You all have to have a piece of me.
Oh
essentially.
gosh.
Yeah, it's like the placenta after the baby's been born. Yes,
oh.
you get to pick what
Interesting.
part.
Oh.
I don't
I
want
was
that.
gonna say, is
Do
it-
you remember? This is totally, well, I mean, it's related. It's tangential. Someone was dying. He was like terminally ill. And a guy who wanted to try to eat a person was like, can I eat you? And he's like, yeah, sure, dude. I don't care. And he like signed off on it. And then that guy went to prison.
yeah.
Wow.
I've read about this.
The
Yeah.
court
Yeah.
was like, I
That's
don't
insane.
care
It
that
was
he
somewhere-
said
it
it
was
was
in
okay.
Right.
He like advertised or they hooked up through like a chat service or something.
Yes.
And
Wow.
It was in
the
Europe.
guy who said yes, you can eat me had a lifelong fetish fantasizing about being eaten.
You're right.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it was.
I feel like this is something we would read on my old radio show
Oh, wow.
back in the mid 2000s.
Crazy.
We would always read stories like this, real stories that are just bizarre,
Just
mostly
bonkers.
Bizarre.
from Florida. FYI,
Oh.
Florida
About-
man.
Explains a
about
lot.
30% of them, just to be fair, just to be accurate.
I'm just saying, I'm not super proud that I come from Florida, but all those stories are very Florida accurate. I do want to say before we move on, I did make a note when he's sitting there, the ghoul, Cooper, he's watching the movie and he says the line, I'm not going to attempt to say it in Spanish, but you're ugly, you're strong, you have dignity. At least I can say 2 of the 3. He's just shamelessly consumed so much alcohol and drugs right before that moment that I feel like in a way he may be looking at that and thinking that applies to himself. He's ugly, he's strong.
That's what I was
But he
going to
has
say.
no dignity at this point. I didn't notice that until the second watch. And I was like, oh, that's really kind of a poignant moment where he's kind of looking at it and maybe feeling like, because he's on the ground, sort of leaning and looking up at this television screen in the way that the guy, when he was doing the movie, was kind of on the ground and he's standing over him. And it sort of has that visual symbolism there. Like that
Right,
he's in.
that previous him is looking
Yeah.
down on the current him.
yeah,
and judging
sort of-
him.
yeah, exactly. That version of him, maybe he feels like he doesn't live up to that anymore.
Well, and it's a dual thing too, because in real life, that was the moment he was like, I'm part of this system of McCarthyism, essentially. This is the moment where he started to have to play that part where, okay, I have to call people commies so that people don't call me a commie.
Or Pinko or whatever.
So there's a dual thing. It's not only him talking to himself, it's also the very moment where he started backsliding, probably.
Yes.
That he didn't stand for something. Meanwhile, he's constantly being annoyed by this girl who is not everything he hoped he could be, but this idealism, this optimism, this courteousness, there's all these attributes that he maybe tried to live up to some fashion up until that point. But then when he realized he was a part of a system that no longer persists, which is also a kick in the teeth, because really, what's the one thing that we say about the Walking Dead universe? It should allow you to be the person you were meant to be. But in this world, and I wrote this in huge letters, he's basically the opposite of Feo Fuerte y Formal. And this show does a really good job of eventually showing each character. We haven't seen Maximus yet, but showing each character that you aren't the hero of your own story. Lucy, Cooper Howard, hopefully Maximus, and definitely not Siggy Wilzig. May the rest of both parts of him rest in peace.
Right.
Yeah, I think he realizes I'm not the hero of my own story. I had to do horrible things. I had to throw puppies in the incinerator, probably other terrible things that we didn't get to see because the show maybe wants us to see him in a certain way. It's not just that. It's not just us seeing these people as not the hero of their own story. It's these characters seeing themselves, and even Norman, by the way, to a certain extent. Chet also, when he is trying to sympathize with Stephanie. He goes,
that whole scene is so cringy.
I'm no longer gatekeeper. Well, things are.
I hate it.
My beloved is gone.
I hate it.
Yeah, my husband died. Yeah, that is probably
so
worse.
Weird. That whole
situation.
Worse.
I was like, what? This was not necessary.
Yeah.
This was not necessary.
I loved it.
Of course you did.
It was so awkward.
Yeah. It was cringe, awkward, hysterical. Yes. Oh, that's a wet lady or something.
Oh, God.
There she blows.
It gives me the ick, dude.
And it was
so bad.
Comical. It's like somebody had a hose down her back just as an actor and just release the fire hose and just whoosh. Comically. It was just so comical. But all of this to say that each of these characters is seeing themselves and realizing I am not the hero of my own story. And I think that's fascinating because when you see the truth about yourself, things can actually happen. Because what is the 50s? What is the sheen of the 50s? What has that always been about? What the future could be, the retrofuturistic 50s. What the future is. This is what we are. This is what we see ourselves as, is grabbing the future. But in reality, what are we doing to our neighbors? We're calling them pinko under our breath. We're trying to outdo each other behind the scenes. What are we? Isn't jealousy one of those 10 commandments that thou shalt not covet thy neighbor? It's a commentary. It's what led to maybe the fallout, essentially, is smuggling in the idea of, well, why look at ourselves when we can put that on some country far away? Why look at our problems? There's monopolies everywhere. And then you realize, and Cooper Howard probably realized it too at the time, you can't beat the system. Once it's grabbed a hold of you, that's it. You're part of the current now, and there's no getting away. Well, you've been released from that current and you're still an asshole.
Yeah.
So
there's nowhere else to look when it's just you out there.
So what
in the
are
wasteland.
You could have been anything, and you decided to be the worst, actually.
Yeah. But how long, I wonder, did it take him to get to that point? You know,
that is a great question, actually.
Much like we've seen on The Walking Dead, you have to be your worst to survive. For him to survive 200 years, I'm sure he's had to be the worst a whole lot of times.
Well, like I said, with the whole butt jerky thing, that's very unsavory. That's something that you wouldn't do to a friend unless your survival depended on it. And he's now, by this point, so ingrained in surviving that he doesn't even think twice about it. Yep, let's make some jerky because I could use that to survive because I'm in a bad way right now. I don't have any drugs, whatever it is.
Well, now that we're here, by the way, Francisco said people theorize it's horse morphine. What's in the vials? The horse meat take isn't so far-fetched, Bridget. Basically,
I think it's very accurate. Yeah. So Roger does say, "How long have you been wastelanding?" And I don't know if that is a reference to the name of the drug because it does sound like it's not an actual drug, or a chem, I should say. Wastelander is not a chem that you can take in the game, but is it one that they created, or does it mean like any of those chems can help stave off that feral ghoul state? Because he seems to be pretty adamant about getting as many of them in him as possible when he gets to Super Duper Mart. So I don't know if it's just drugs. That one.
Yeah.
That's his favorite one.
It's Ghoul-Aid.
Well, so what does
like
Kim
that.
stand for about, or how do you spell it, and what does it stand for? Does it stand for anything?
Chem as in chemical.
Chemical.
Oh, chem.
Chems.
Gotcha.
Yeah, chems.
My New York ears didn't interpret
Look,
that
she's
properly.
from Florida, and it sounded
Gotcha.
fine,
Yeah.
Dave.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to understand on a global scale.
You know.
It's for the
No.
audience.
USA, USA.
Not my USA. Where's my tie?
When the ghoul and Lucy were walking through the desert at the very beginning, they're walking down a star-spangled path.
Yeah,
I did see
notice
that.
I don't know what that was from, but I just thought it was an interesting
Yeah.
detail.
If you were in a hyper nationalistic
Yeah.
society where you don't want to be accused of, I won't say the examples, but we do that today when we feel like we want to politically stand with the thing of the day of the era.
You making fun of me
Yeah.
because I just did the USA chant, Dave?
Let's just go with yes, and we'll leave it at that. Let me go to Francisco again. He said, I watched an
He's
anime
talking about
this.
anime.
So what? Anime is great. I've watched an anime about dystopia for millions of years, and a lot of the characters have went through those years. Coop must have been through a lot before he met Lucy. It's just,
What anime,
Yeah.
Francisco? How dare you?
you should tell me about the
How dare
anime.
you?
And all I know,
Tell me
I
which
wouldn't want
one.
to play this story as Hank, essentially.
Oh,
Hank McClane.
Dr. Stone.
Dr. Stone. I've been meaning to watch that, actually. Yeah.
I've never
Okay.
even heard of it.
You're giving me a nod in that direction, so cool. Then again, he watches JoJo's Big Adventure, which I watched all of. Thank you.
I did
Francisco,
start
just
it,
for
and
you.
I started it, and it was wild. And I was like,
It's rough.
what is this?
It's rough. It's weird.
And I was
It's
like,
rough.
no thanks. And
Yeah.
no, that's-
now
I don't know
we're
why
watching,
I watched all of it. No
Now
offense.
we're-
I just
Now we're watching the
Just
one I
couldn't
told
stop.
you about the other night, but I can't remember the name of it.
Rising of the Shield Hero, yeah, which is a weird way of saying it, but yeah,
It's great.
it is great actually.
It feels like every episode is getting progressively better and better and better. Not to say that the first few episodes were not good. I'm more blown away than the last one. They're so good at being hilarious, but also really getting me in the feels. And I'm like, ugh, I am all over the place. I felt something for Roger.
Oh,
I
okay.
know.
Oh,
I felt so bad.
And
We
I'm
knew him
like,
for like
watch-
30 seconds.
I know. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this poor guy is going through this. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what if the walkers on The Walking Dead knew they were changing? And like, I
Yeah.
went through this whole thought process and like, it really got to me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
these poor,
What if
these
they
poor
did rather than?
things.
What I was thinking with Martha was
Yeah.
this is what it would be like if the walkers still had.
Didn't have to die to turn into walkers.
Yeah,
essentially.
And you know how they
Yeah.
hinted that they still had something inside in the last couple seasons. They were like, there's still something inside
God.
them.
Oh God.
So
fear.
that is what it would be like
Maybe.
if they still had something inside them and they would be like, I'm
Yeah.
Martha. My name is Martha.
It's that
Yeah.
last thing that you're
The
like,
last thing that
don't
won't
forget your
stop.
name. Don't forget
Yeah.
your name, because as soon as you forget your name, you're effectively
over.
a
Yeah.
monster.
Yeah.
You're a ghoul, yeah.
And look at the
Yeah.
contrast between when they go feral and when they don't. See you later. Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, and they're walking, talk. They don't have to be Coop. This is what I'm trying to say, guys. They
Yeah.
don't have to be Cooper Howard. They're
Yeah.
just trying to survive. They live
Yeah.
longer. They don't get killed as easily. They don't.
They look a certain
What's
way.
with the discrimination? That's all.
They're
Lucy
just
sees
not
that.
smoothies. That's all.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
smooth skins.
Why discriminate?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Is it because you're jealous? Keeping up with the Joneses? You want to live longer without looking like a horror show?
Yeah, I've often asked that my nose be just removed from my face completely.
Which, hold on a second. We talked about this very briefly in the first episode when it came to the doctor that was keeping Coop alive with those.
Ben from Lost. And oh no,
Not
the
that
other
doctor. No, there's whatever they mentioned in passing. Keeping alive.
The
there's
underground guy.
Yeah.
taking peace. Well, not him per se, but whatever facility he was in a casket, and they were drip feeding the drugs into him while he was laying dormant. We should have stayed on that a little longer, because what that doctor might, since we're here now, what that doctor might have been doing is taking the secrets of the ghoul and making it so the people that don't have to be horror shows can live longer. Maybe
That's my
that was
next
the deal.
book.
Yeah, maybe possible.
That's probably the deal he made. And maybe that deal is mutually beneficial. Maybe he's trying to, because we saw his daughter. And so you're thinking to yourself, what if she's on ice or something? He wants to protect her from having to turn into a ghoul to live forever with him. There's things that go in my mind, in the back of my mind, that lead me to believe that. But I don't know. It's just something I'm glad they mentioned it in passing, because then people don't obsess over it in every single episode like I will. But
Secrets of
I
the
never mentioned it.
Ghoul.
So There we
So
go.
we all think Lucy is the hero of this story, our main character.
Nobody
but
is really.
I
Dog meat.
think it's Norm. Norm for the win.
Yeah, but he also still sees himself, sees his failings. He sees the truth.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make him even more of a hero?
That's why I said it makes it interesting.
Because he doesn't think he's a hero. That's why he's a hero. I think Norm's going to come out in a real big way by the end. I think he's going to be our hero. He's going to shed some light where it needs to be shown.
And he's the leader that they need now.
Go Norm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why they're looking at all the electioneering between the two. Like, oh, nice posters. Reg and
Nice poster, Woody.
yeah, Woody, Reg and Woody for
I've been
overseer.
admiring yours too, Reg.
First of all, I think that is endearing.
It's so fake.
It's cute, but they're focusing on the wrong thing, and they're highlighting that so heavily with these characters. Especially these two guys are so focused on all the wrong things. It's funny to me.
Some of it is disingenuous. I think
Is
that
it though? I wonder.
because okay, yeah, you like live in a perfect society, but there's still going to be infighting because that's just our nature as humans. So while yes, what's societally acceptable is for me to be may the best man win and I'm going to be fair and complimentary towards you because that's what's appropriate. That doesn't mean that inside you're not like, I am better deserving of this position. I would be better at this than he would. He's an idiot. What does he even know? It feels disingenuous to me.
What if that's a social enforcement mechanism?
What do you mean?
Well, it's a reflexive thing, right? So if you establish a standard in society that, well, the person who's more polite is regarded, and that's the way it should be, right? You should be pretty nice to other people. But then you go to the South and somebody goes, bless their heart. And they give them the side eye, right? Which is like this weird, polite way of saying, oh, that person's the R word. Functionally.
No, there's more
but not
complexity. No, that's an oversimplification of that also.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of
it's
our
because
show.
that's not what that is. Like sometimes that
also
can
exaggerating.
That can be disingenuous, correct? But sometimes that's not a disingenuous thing that people say.
It's a kind thing, right?
So,
well, and it is though, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't,
So,
and sometimes it's
ultimately.
like that person really is dumb, or they're behaving in an uneducated way, but it's not that.
She's correcting me right now. Like,
well,
I was being facetious, but yes, okay.
I understand. I'm just saying, but I don't want people to take that and be like, "Oh, that's how it is." It's not.
I don't care.
It's not.
Wow.
Well, I live here, and so stop it.
I appreciate it, Bridget. Thank you. I really do, actually.
Whatever.
But no, what you're saying is you feel like Woody and Reg are disingenuous. Probably. Yeah.
I do think so. I don't. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm
That actually got me thinking, though.
No, I completely I think they're being polite to each other. You know what I mean?
Oh,
because
quote,
that's
unquote.
what's like
Quote, unquote.
expected.
Yeah, even more than that. To me, it doesn't even matter which one is elected overseer because the problems they're focusing on don't matter.
I want to be overseer
like,
so
how
I can
do we-
read Shakespeare to these inmates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
How do
Milton.
we
Oh, I love
how do we
Milton.
get these raiders to join our vault team? Like, how do we get them to join us? Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, no.
Yeah. Who's fixing your water chip, guys? What's happening?
They live.
So that's what you should focus on,
La
actually.
La
Yeah.
Land.
It's one thing if you have your raiders all in a pen and you can figure out what to do with them, but Karina's right. You have a broken water chip, and that
Exactly.
should be the focus primarily.
Like that should be the whole campaign platform. Vote for me. I'll fix your water
I'll
chip.
fix the water chip. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like,
all this conversation has actually made me think about what Norm and Chet find in Vault 32, and that's the looping, most likely looping.
Oh my gosh.
Mouse.
We need to stay right on this for a while. I have so many things to say and so many questions. And now that we're here,
Let me paint the scenario, and then why don't you jump in? But they get to this room. It's in the admin room. Yeah. Well, one of the administrators, essentially.
oh yeah,
You see a corpse who's stuck a fork in another toaster. Again, using a toaster for a thing that
Toasters.
wasn't intended to be toasting. I think that's kind of cool because we keep seeing a toaster in almost every episode, essentially.
yeah.
And so he or she, we don't know, has obviously killed themselves while continuously watching or putting this video on loop. It is obviously from Vault Tech. They're talking about mice in a control group and describing how overpopulation will cause these mice, technically, who start out living in this absolute comfort, a mat to sleep on, all the food they will ever need, all the creature comforts. And then due to overpopulation, they end up eating each other. And of course, there's the obvious thing of, well, that's probably what happened to Vault 32. And this guy is just seeing something that he maybe shouldn't have seen. And I'm thinking to myself, what if, I'm thinking two things. Obviously, this happened to Vault 32 somewhat. We don't know the whole story. This happened 2 years ago, apparently, from the logs. This happened because somebody used Rose McClane's ID or her Pip-Boy to get in from the outside. Okay. I also thought while you guys were talking about people are bred to compete with one another, people are bred to outdo each other, to name call, to not be as nice as they could be, especially when it comes to politics. And they're being disingenuous. I'm not sure that I actually agree with that, but it did get me thinking that what if these people, for the most part, maybe except for the McClanes, because the ghoul says something McClane, and he kind of does the side eye. It's kind of like the effect when we thought of Moldaver. Everybody knows Moldaver. I don't know Moldaver. Apparently, I don't know the McClanes either.
He definitely recognized that name.
So and before we go into the questions that you have, is it possible that, and I'm stuck on this theory, I can't stop. What if they found something they shouldn't have? What if they found out that they're an experiment from Vault-Tec, nay, the Enclave, let's say, and they found out that
Karina's covering her face.
Well, just like the writing on the wall. What did the writing on the wall say?
We know the truth.
We know the truth. Yeah.
We know the truth, and death to management.
Death to management.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm going with this theory, and it's really, I can't stop thinking about it. It's why Wilzig knows what he knows. Okay. So Rachel, just jump on in. Give me that fire.
I have so many things to say and so many questions. I'm going to start with the statements first. One, last episode, we were talking about Pip-Boys and how do they charge, and like how do they these people have been dead for 2 years, and all their Pip-Boys are still on and working.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, do they just have like a never-ending battery? Like, obviously it's not running off of like biometrics. These people are dead, but their Pip-Boys are still like,
and that's what
running.
killed them. They're Pip-Boys.
Yes, they're Pip-Boys.
But it's a perpetual motion gear inside of the
But they've been dead for 2 years.
Yeah.
They're not moving.
Perpetual motion has nothing to do with the movement of the person. It means once something starts moving, it never stops. So if they have like a little gyroscope thingy in their Pip-Boy, it could go forever, even after they died, without having to be powered.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I like Bridget's theory that the Pip-Boys killed them, because when we see no, seriously, when we see those two, the one person, I thought he was joking, but let's go. When we see the person who's like strangling the other person, but they're both dead. So this person died strangling someone else. They died during this interaction.
Not possible either.
I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Unless they
crushed
dying.
each other's windpipes,
or the one person may have already been injured and then choked the other one to death and then died or something.
Right, bled out.
That's what Silas said. They choked each other to death.
Your son is very sharp.
I don't know if that's possible.
It's not possible because you would pass out from lack of oxygen.
One of them would pass out before the other one, and then
Or you were already in the process of dying, and you wanted your last thing that you did was to kill your neighbor. For the very right, you were already dying, so it just kind of goes to your point about everybody.
Note to self: don't move in next to.
What if they're nuclear?
Everybody's nice to each other to a point, kind of like what you were alluding to, right? Everybody's congenial as long as they're safe, as long as everything's okay. But the second things go south, we were talking about Lord of the Flies earlier. The second things go a little south, people start making up rules, quote unquote, and then the people are like, no, F you and your rules, quote unquote. I'm gonna F.
And then someone pushes a rock on someone else.
Exactly. from a height. Yeah. Exactly. Oh,
I'm traumatized by that scene. It's still in my brain. I know. All these years later.
I know.
Or Piggy.
Yeah, I know.
Spoiler alert.
Hashtag justice for Piggy.
I know.
Anyway,
years later,
the Pip-Boys could be run on nuclear power because this is like the nuclear age. And
yeah, everything's nuclear powered in Fallout.
To Bridget's idea that they are being killed by the Pip-Boys, it could be because the radiation finally got to them through the Pip-Boys.
I'm into it.
It's very possible because every single car, if you shoot it up enough in Fallout, will explode in like a little mushroom cloud every single time without fail. Every car.
So wait a second. I'm going to say this out loud. It's going to sound ridiculous. What if no nukes actually dropped? What if
the moon was wearing pants, Dave?
What if they're in the Truman Show?
What do you mean?
Well, let's let it hang there.
Though.
Well, no. What if nukes didn't drop? What if infrastructure just crumbled because we were relying on nuclear power? We cut standards. I'm just spitballing it. It's probably not even an important thought.
Watched them drop and
Did we? We just saw the explosion.
Oh, he's saying that those
That's true.
were
Okay,
mini reactor explosions.
Right.
Okay,
Mini
possibly.
maximal, like power stations, nuclear power stations, nuclear power stations it probably exploded.
Yeah.
Nuclear cars started
I'm
exploding.
hard pass on that one, but
It's just a thought, because if you're going to go that far, because how is Mr. Handy / Snip Snip is what he's called on the show.
Snip, snip, yep.
How is he powered? Probably nuclear power. 'Cause
Nuclear
There's
power.
you
nowhere to
think I would be
charge.
really into this because I'm such a conspiracy theorist, but no.
They're just like, can we move on? Like this show does a good job of doing. They move on pretty quickly because
We're
life
not
is
done
hard.
talking about Vault 32 yet.
No,
because
we
we
are
have more
not.
things to add.
So in the first episode, we know that Vault 32 sent a message. What did he say exactly? We got your telegram or something about the passing of Overseer, da-da-da.
Oh, from the first episode. Gotcha.
Yeah. What did he say? What form of communication are they passing?
It's probably an email.
Yeah,
I would
this sort of
say.
email system,
Okay.
Yeah.
which is what
Okay.
we saw for the communication between 31 and 33.
Did we get any kind of timeline on that? When did that come through?
So we did get some sort of timeline in terms of why he finds out it's 2 years, at least when it comes to this communication. I guess let me read what's on the screen as Norm is actually looking at the email of the intertrade.
I tried looking, but I didn't pause or try very hard.
There's so many things
Intervault.
I wish-
Intervault
because I knew you
messaging
would.
system.
Right.
I
Yeah,
knew you
Intervault
would.
So
messaging
welcome
system.
to Roboco Industries, trademark, term link, Vault 33 communication log. Okay, so it's Vault 33's communication log. This is when he's in Vault 33 looking up, trying to see internally if I
Yes.
can see the right. First page is subject is record of intervault trade. The following is a record of the recent intervault trade that took place between Vault 33 and Vault 31, not 32, I noted. The trades included the following items. Vault 33 provided spare parts, generators. Vault 31 provided medicine, which could be a reference to the Great... It's not a reference to the Great Plague, since it was only 2 years ago. Vault 33 provided technical expertise. So it was mostly Vault 33 was helping out 31, it seems like.
Okay.
Second page is from Martin Johnson. So the same email. It's from Martin Johnson, February 24th, 2095. So this was just a year ago, actually. Because we're in 2096, just to refresh everybody's memory. Vault 33 to Vault 31. As you're aware, our vault has been experiencing some recent difficulties. Despite our best efforts, we have been unable to repair our internal systems and are currently exploring options. Which that should have been in quotes. Is what is exploring options? And if Vault 32 failed systematically 2 years ago, when Norm actually finds out when he reads their communications, finding out what happened to the external vault door, it was let in by Lucy's mother, Rose McLean, from
His
the
mother,
outside.
too.
At least they know how the Raiders may have gotten in.
I'm trying to figure out how long the Raiders were in that vault before they came over to 33. Was it a few days? Did they kill them 2 years ago and they've just been hanging out there for 2 years and didn't know how to run the place?
I don't think so.
Or did they just get there?
So that begs the question, do you think the Raiders are in any way clever?
No. Well, I mean,
it's a simple
Moldaver has some
Moldaver is
know-how.
Everybody knows Moldaver.
She's got something upstairs.
To some degree, they are because they knew well enough to keep their mouths shut long enough.
They can at least follow orders. We
Yeah.
know that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say with most Raider groups, you end up with one person in charge for whatever reason, whether they're smarter or scarier or whatever the case. There's a group in Fallout 4 that are smart enough at least to have a computer interconnected system where they send messages to each other and work together to like do trade and stuff like that. So you can kind of uncover this the same way that Norm does with this sort of environmental storytelling and finding these computer terminals and just reading through logs and stuff like that. You can kind of uncover some backstory and some background, which is one of the things I really liked about when they were in Vault 32. They were just kind of doing what you do in a game, because most of the times when you find a vault that's open or accessible in any way from the outside, it looks like 32. It's a ton of environmental storytelling. You might glean maybe what was going on in this vault, whatever kind of experiment was happening, or how the thing fell apart or how it got opened. And you do it by reading through terminals and just seeing what's going on in there.
Right. Like the one guy impaled by the foosball column.
Yeah, like that was great.
With the Vault Boys as the characters.
Yeah, so I would say Raiders are capable of organizing clearly Moldaver is the leader of that group and organizing this, whatever the purpose was, to get Lucy's dad out of there for whatever her purposes are. I don't know, unless it specifically states a date on that message of when Rose McClane's Pip-Boy was used to open the vault, what day.
It didn't say, because it peeled.
Yeah.
The only thing it focused on was the Rose McClane. Well, it showed the first page where it's basically log information, what happened in that moment. And it just showed that, it's checking external vault door. It's going through norms authentication saying, oh, okay, certification can't be verified. This is like tech lingo. Certification, because nobody's at the gatekeeper isn't present. So going through emergency protocols and saying, okay, well, I guess I'll show you the message. And then it basically is just saying that ID is accepted and it's Rose McClane. So as far as when the raiders arrived, as of this episode, you're not going to really know exactly when, but if we're going to take that one raider at their word, and let's assume that they're not clever for a hot sec, at least the group that they have in custody is not terribly clever. They know enough to keep their mouths shut, right? Because whatever, screw these guys.
Right.
And maybe it's also a cultural thing, just as
in interrogation.
Yeah, just as a cultural thing too. On the wastelands, like, who's it to you? What is it your business? Screw you. Get me out of here.
No.
Yeah.
But if we're going to take him at his word, he has no reason to lie, really. And why would they leave that environment in such a state that it's really unlivable for just being a human and being around dead things? And why would you leave it like that if you wanted a place to sleep? Because it was clearly full of blood, gore, and viscera.
We also think about the structure of a vault. So it seems to me that obviously the main vault door is up at the surface level, and where people live in the vault is generally some floors below that. It's possible that the raiders were living in the upper areas where the living quarters really weren't, and they sort of made themselves, they sort of made themselves a living space there and just sort of left those lower levels a horrible mess the way they found it, because you're a raider. You're not there to build a home. You're just there to stake out that area. That's your base. You're not improving it or anything like that. Because if you've ever seen a raider base, it's a mess. It's filled with bodies and skeletons. Filled with
you're proving me wrong. You're like, they could live in a place like that for a while.
They probably would. I'm just saying it's possible because, the interconnected part of the vaults where the three of them are connected together seem to be further down in the living space. So I'm just thinking how a vault is structured. There's plenty of space for raiders to maybe make a camp up in the upper levels and leave that other bottom area untouched and not ever need to go down there because there's no resources, there's no food, there's nothing for them down there except dead bodies. So what do they need that for? So they just leave it. Just thinking as a possibility.
That's interesting. Okay, I'll leave it there. I mean, again, we don't know definitively either way. I also wanted to note one thing, and I love when the show gives you a sense of geography. You know where you're going. You have an idea in your head of every single hallway based on the shots that were taken for each scene and all that stuff. I noted that when they were moving into the intervault door, it was in the farm field. And when they emerged on the other side of the hallway, when they obviously climbed through the rubble, they go through the other door, and that other door leads into their farm. So every intervault door seems to lead into the other's farm first. It's cool that we get a sense of geography when it comes to the vaults. It's why I noted that it doesn't seem like the vaults themselves have floors. They're just one flat sprawl, let's say, because I didn't see any stairs. I didn't see any elevators per se until
elevators.
They do take an elevator. Yeah.
Until they have to leave the vault.
Yeah, it's definitely portrayed
so far
that way. Maybe I am interjecting a little bit more of my knowledge of what a vault looks
Shelter.
like. Yeah, well, from Fallout Shelter and the games and things like that, there are several floors. You can get lost in a vault. They can be that big. Maybe that is partially me not taking into account what I'm actually seeing on the screen versus what I'm assuming I know about vaults and just assuming there's more floors because there usually are.
And maybe to your point, this is more of a question. Are vaults in and of themselves not cookie cutter? Because as far as you can tell, as far as all the games go, they seem to be unique unto themselves. Each vault has a feature.
Yeah, they're sort of set up the same way. They'll look the same way because they're obviously all manufactured the same way. But they're not all cookie cutter because there is at least one vault in Fallout 4 that was made from a decommissioned subway terminal.
Waste not, want not.
Yeah, that one is very different. And they even talk about how is a vault in a subway terminal going to protect anybody from radiation because they didn't build the subway to be radiation proof. And they were like, basically the people, the people there's like, what? Why do you care? Like, why does that matter? They're dead. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, like it's a good question to think about. Like, why would why would Vault Tech bother to build a vault in an old subway station?
Well, it's sort of a rhetorical question to really think about it, because as you discover throughout all the games, Vault-Tec don't care. Not really.
Yeah, they had all kinds of reasons for figuring out, what if we build a vault in a subway station and tell them they'll be safe from radiation, but joke's on them.
Well, and there's also intention versus malpractice, right? It's not always Hanlon's razor. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's built to fail. And because we want to know what would happen if the radiation would come in or some other thing. It's what I said last week about Vault 12 being an experiment, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
And how they've purposely opened the door during the blast to see what would happen to the people.
Or left it open slightly just so that it would not fully seal. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, this is what led me to the idea. All of this led me to the idea that what if it wasn't an attack? What if it wasn't the Great War? What if things just went off because of malpractice, or what would happen? Or maybe Vault-Tec itself was like, I get this from the first episode because he got my money, meaning Cooper Howard trying to sell Vault-Tec essentially until they booted him off because he was a commie. This is what I'm led to believe, because they replaced him with the Vault Boy. But he got my money, and they weren't making the kind of money that they should have. And maybe Vault-Tec was the cause of all the explosions. Maybe Vault-Tec's the reason why all the nukes exploded. And then once a couple nukes blow off somewhere for some reason, because everything's nuclear powered, then everybody's on high alert and starts shooting nukes all over the place. And then that country responds. So it's not really, the first mover wasn't a country, and this is what I'm thinking, isn't a country or they're fighting, they see it coming from another place. No, it happened from within. Then people got trigger happy, started shooting nukes at the other countries. It was all Vault-Tec all along. Case closed, everybody. We're not covering Fallout anymore. The show is BS.
Done.
I think we're going to find out that the McLeans are bigwigs in the Vault-Tec
based on
world.
What Cooper says, essentially.
Well, Cooper has that little twinge when he hears her name.
What did you say her name was?
Wilzig knows who Lucy McLean is. It was weird when Wilzig had the response that he did, but after seeing the ghoul, I'm just going to call him Cooper. It feels weird.
Yeah.
When
who knows him?
Not Cooper Andrews, as we've discovered.
Right. When Cooper has that moment where he's like, oh, McLean, like he knows that name.
Or it's ringing a bell. Maybe his past too, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like in one of these flashbacks, we're going to get another Cooper flashback. And I think he's going to meet a McLean, who's a bigwig in the Vault-Tec company.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I'm just going to say that I like all of y'all's theories.
I do too.
He's feeding us chum for the sharks.
I'm going to read Francisco's comment because I really like it.
I was going to say,
What if we did a vault where everyone is a zaddy?
Oh, Lord.
Which I thoroughly
What
enjoyed.
if there was a vault where everyone was named Gary?
Oh, is that a thing?
That would be so confusing.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
Morning, Gary.
I don't remember the exact circumstances, but basically
Gary too.
They put one guy in there with no entertainment whatsoever, and then they put a cloning machine in there. And so he just cloned himself a million times, and they all run around just going, ha ha ha, Gary, over and over. And it's the creepiest thing in the world.
Bridget, you know that would be me. Hey, Dave. What's up, Dave?
Yeah,
What's up, Dave?
The world of
just run
Daves.
around going,
My nightmare.
Gary.
There's only one me.
Gary. Oh my
Gary.
God.
The Gary Vault.
I exist to annoy all of you. I'm not here to annoy. That's my hell, to annoy myself. Oh, this guy
Who's the
again.
original Gary?
I don't know.
Does it really matter?
I don't know. It doesn't matter at that point. They're all crazy. They don't say anything except Gary.
That's all they say is Gary.
Well,
If I were in a vault filled with Rachels, I would need to know that I'm the original Rachel.
Maybe they forgot who's the original, because if they're a clone and they all have the same memories, then they're just crazy.
That would be terrifying.
So like a multiplicity type situation where they get dumber the more you clone.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Or more insane the more you clone them. Yeah. Gary.
Oh, that's terrifying too.
It's one of my favorite ones.
It's very
It's
funny.
just because of the way he says it.
So
Like it's
goofy.
it's not just like Gary. It's like Gary.
Wouldn't you love to be the voice? Is it voice? Is there voice? Is that what it is? Or is it just text?
No, it's a voice. Yeah,
Okay.
it's in
Karina
Fallout
just
3,
made
I'm
that
pretty
up
sure.
in her head.
Yeah.
No,
in
I
my
want
head,
that
that's how he
job.
says
I
it.
want that job as that voice actor. Like,
Gary.
okay, take 22. Gary.
I'm gonna have to send
Okay,
you
now
guys a
say it
link to the
different.
YouTube.
Gary.
Now say it again. Gary. Yeah, this is pretty close to the laugh.
Thank you.
It's pretty good. That was good. Gary.
Everyone have distinct
like it.
Gary laughs anyway.
Francisco wanted to talk about Demolition Man.
Okay.
Great movie, by the way, Francisco. He says, where they portray an American society in LA who's basically polite, but they don't allow slurs. But underground, they have more radical Americans.
With rat burgers.
It's a great
I remember
movie.
that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a good movie. Sylvester
That's
Stallone.
3 seashells, isn't it?
To go to the bathroom is the seashell. It's not
3
is
seashells.
It is 3 you see 3 seashells, yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of toilet paper, you figure it out.
Yeah, literally. You figure it out. 'Cause
You don't really know how they're
there
used.
are so
but
many
you-
theories online.
That's weird.
I
He
love
also
it.
says,
The Pip Boys have a special battery, and the interconnected vaults was and is an interesting new lore for the game. I don't think we will see something similar in season 2, but it was interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the vaults are mostly like one-offs, right? Like, so every vault is a little bit different. They're not cookie cutter, except in the way that they're
The build.
styled.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're kind of styled from the same. They all have the same look, which is why Lucy's vault looks so similar to any other vault that you go into. But like the purpose of it is always different. The layout is always different. I don't expect to see another interconnected vault. I had never seen one before this, so
Right. This is why I'm so into the whole idea of these vaults, or maybe all vaults. I was going to say, did I end up saying this? No, I didn't. Remember when I said after we recorded, I said, oh, you never get to talk about this, was... It's
We
not,
have no idea what you're
Which
saying
one?
yet.
okay. Let's start with, in the last episode, I mentioned that Vault 31, 32, and 33 that's their design. It's the whole idea was to see how they would work as a sort of interconnected community, let's say, and they keep to themselves for the most part until they really need something so they can keep each other going. Then it ties in very well to experimentation by the Enclave, which maybe was the Vault Tech, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. That's fine. Don't care. But clearly they've been monitored, or they know about them, or they're intercepting communications or whatever. Then I thought something else, because Bethesda Game Studios, the makers of the Fallout games, is very involved in this project. It's in the title sequence, etc., right before the title sequence. I thought to myself, it's very often that a video game will be adapted to a show or a movie. That's cool. But what you don't often see, and I feel like we will see this, as a result of the show, it spins off a game and more lore, let's say. I feel like that's coming. Occasionally you'll see characters from a show up in a game, right? Like the Michonne and Rick and Survivor, all those mobile games and stuff like that. You'll see that. But what you won't see is a mechanic that is brought on from the show to further the lore of the games in general, like, or spin off a whole entire game based on that.
You're wrong, because how many video games have been made of movies?
Were they good? No, well, no.
No, bro, they're never good.
they're never good.
First the game, then the adaptation, then based
the
on that
game again.
adaptation, a new game. That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, movies and TV series. Yeah, that's
I understand.
That's we know that. Like the
Here's
Goonies
the
video
thing.
game's terrible. I'm kidding.
Here, LJN.
It is. It's
Okay,
so bad.
here's the thing. So this was attempted. Not exactly as you're saying, but this was attempted once before. And this was like a revolutionary project. And I'm so disappointed coming to fruition. It did not play out the way that it should have, because had it really would have changed the game between how media interacts with each other. There was a show on Sci-Fi Channel. There's your first red flag right there. It was a good show. I will stand by this. I enjoyed this show. I thought it was great. It was called Defiance.
Oh, I love that show.
Defiance is great. Post-apocalyptic, took place in a re-terraformed Earth.
St. Louis, Missouri.
In
if I
St.
remember
Louis,
right.
Missouri.
Because the Arch. Oh, what happened to Charity? Because the
And-
Arch is
Yes,
a feature
the
in
Arch
the show.
was featured in it.
The Gateway Arch.
There was a video game companion to the television show. It was on Xbox 360, I believe. When
Wow, it's pretty
things
recent.
changed in the show, it subsequently affected what happened in the video game. So as
Oh,
the
so it
show
updates.
aired through the season, updates would happen to change things in the video game.
That's cool.
It was like the coolest idea, and it flopped big time.
Seems like it should have been amazing.
Should have been
Like,
amazing. Defiance wasn't well received as a television show. It was
It should have
canceled
been.
after
was
like
great.
maybe the second season. I don't even know if it made it to a second season. I don't even remember.
It did.
But it was
I think it
canceled.
finished off in the third season.
It was canceled. The video game, it was just one of those grandiose ideas that didn't quite play out right. Now we're very accepting of like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy that game for the first 6 months or whatever. Take a look at No Man's Sky and how that was supposed to be this epically huge game, and like how cool that was that they were using AI to like formulate brand new planets and solar systems so that you can even replicate going to the same place again.
Forget open world, it's open universe.
These were all groundbreaking things to put into a video game.
Breaking.
But the problem is that you come up with these really great ideas, and then the person who does the funding is like, great, but I want my money back now. You sold this idea to me, and like I invested, and you're taking 10 years to put it together. I want my money back now. So like, you're going to have to put the game out. Don't care that it's not done. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Release a patch.
They hustle and they grind, and then they patch it for years. And No Man's Sky is still being patched to this day. Trev got it years ago, hated it. Plays it now. He's like, this game is incredible because it got so patched that now it is like a playable game. It wasn't a playable game when it first came out.
Totally different
That
game.
is like an acceptable product to receive now in the video game world. You receive a game and you're like, it's super glitchy. I guess I'll just have to wait for the next big patch, or I'm not going to buy that game until the first patch comes out because I know that it's going to be jacked from the get. There's studios that are like known for that.
Oh, like Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cyberpunk.
Basically.
Yeah.
Studios
One of
that
the
are
most
known for
notorious.
Promoted by Keanu Reeves to kind of get that hype going, right?
Like, so
He was in that
yeah,
commercial.
you take a look at what studio put out the game you're thinking about, and then
love
you
Cyberpunk.
wait subsequently
Yeah,
if it's
you would.
like, I don't know, whoever put out Cyberpunk, I don't remember. But anyway, so
It was so good.
CD Projekt Red.
it's just a thing that happens.
It's a huge gamble
Unfortunately.
for a property that has a ton of games behind it, years, decades behind it, to release a show or a movie. First of all, that's already a gamble. We've talked about this in the first episode. Adaptations are a risk. But nowadays, they've gotten to the point where it's really compelling.
Well, again,
Right,
I
we'll get
told
Last of
you,
Us,
I told
et
you
cetera, right.
before it was like, I'm going to try to morph this into something that I view as palatable to the mass consumer. But the problem is that what was palatable to the mass consumer was exactly what you already had. But instead of going full weird, you were like, that's too weird. People aren't going to like that, even though they like superheroes and weird, stupid superhero stories. They love that. If you put
And
it in there, they're going to like
fatigue too, right?
Yes.
To your point
But
from
same
earlier
thing with video
episodes.
games, right? Like they were trying to like make it less weird so it was more consumable, and in that ruined the property. It inevitably happened every time.
In this case, if I'm right about this, they're taking a double risk, which is, okay, we've not only adapted this to a television show, this lore for decades, 25 years of lore history. Now we're adapting to a show. It goes gangbusters. I don't even know what the view count is on this series now, because we said 65 million viewers on Amazon Prime, according to their numbers worldwide. Okay, fine. Now I feel like they're going to go their way of, and why wouldn't they adapt all of that game history, game lore, plus the show, and create something new based off of the mechanics and storytelling on the show to create a whole new game. It could be with these characters, but it doesn't have to be. It could run alongside.
I think it would be really cool. I'm still heartbroken over Defiance not being what it was supposed to be.
But
you know
that
what
wasn't
I mean?
adapted from a video game.
No, it wasn't.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is, Dave, like,
There's a potential.
leave that behind. I'm not even talking about that. They're already successful. You don't even need that now. And the show is done really well on its own with people who have never played the video games. They don't even need to coexist in the same universe. They've already done what they needed to, and it can go off from here to do its own thing if they wanted to. But when you think of something that had such huge potential, and this is like just really me geeking out over the idea of this game, honestly, a bigger company like Bethesda, now granted, they put more time into their games, which is why they release them and they have less glitches.
Arguable.
Less glitches.
Less
Playable glitches.
I'm not talking about online.
To Francisco's comment.
I'm not either.
That Fallout series doesn't need any patches. It's glitch free.
I mean,
No, it's not. It's really not.
But if you could take something and spend more time on it and release that and really truly create a connection, I think it could really change the world of gaming. But like, no one has been able to do it successfully because like that one time they tried it and it didn't work. And sometimes that's enough to be like, never mind.
It always ends up in the hands of his executives, and executives are like, kind of to your point, it's like, release this game because I put too much money into it or whatever.
Well, it was really banking on the show doing
property.
well. And like Sci-Fi was banking on the show doing well. It was a big budget show. You saw it, Dave. You remember the costuming and the set work alone was insane.
Well, the filming, the set work, the makeup itself was
Sorry, I've
really,
gotten
really good.
completely off on a tangent. Anyway,
But it's okay.
just it would be cool. It would be cool if they would do something like that.
Right. And they have the nuts, meaning they have the lore behind it to be able to do that.
Not even
Is what
that.
I'm
They
saying.
have the funding.
Proof of concept is the right word to use in this scenario. They have the proof of concept to be able to pull it off, especially in light of the show. We're on fire. Let's spend the money to make the money. It's kind of what Marvel's doing now, Disney.
This is the thing. You have to have her already in the barrel.
That's what I'm saying. I think they do.
I think we'd know.
Well, we assumed that the message in the show about calling the number, which we haven't gotten to yet, was about season 2. But I'm honestly thinking my wheels are spinning ever since Karina told us in the first episode that it has something to do with the games and not the show.
I would have to disagree only because, and this could be a complete lie, but Todd Howard has come out and said that we should not expect another Fallout game for several years. They're working on Elder Scrolls.
My response to that is, and then Madison came back onto the show.
Right. Well, yes.
That's saying she would never come back.
It's 100% possible that was a lie, but he has said that we should not expect another Fallout anytime soon.
It's such a big investment and you wouldn't know if it was going to pan out or not. Because what if they released Fallout, the TV show, and it completely flopped, but you had spent 4 years having your studio work on a game that now is essentially useless and worthless to you.
Yeah.
That's huge money, dude. You can't do it. It's why none of this has worked before.
This is your ultimate point, though, right?
You can't hedge your bets on it. You just can't.
Yeah.
Fortune and glory, kid.
Would be so cool. Would be so cool. But
yeah.
I would say, okay, so I just want to mention that it seems impossible that they could put together a game like Fallout in such a short amount of time because production cycle is usually something like 4 years or longer for a game that big. However, arguably the most popular and most successful Fallout game ever was New Vegas. And there was a 1-year production cycle for that. Yeah, 1 year, which is
unheard
insane.
of.
That's
insane. And the fact that it was the most successful and most popular one, glitchy as it is incredible. And so it's not impossible. I just would be concerned about getting a game that quickly based just off of the show itself. I would hate to see a game come out that is just a cash grab for the popularity of the show. I would rather them put the time. I would rather wait 10 more years for another Fallout as long as they do it right.
I would say, let me just say what Francisca said. Honestly, I think Fallout series is almost like a new game of Fallout because it's a continuation of the series. We have a new game we are watching with new lore while keeping it faithful. That's why I said what I said, is that I would like that, but then I'm sort of saying, what if it's already in the works? And look, if they had a massive enough test audience to say, oh, this is going to go gangbusters, with a diverse enough crowd of people doing double blind sort of, have you ever seen a video game adaptation before? Okay. Have you not? Okay. Have you watched TV before ever? Nope. Hey, this show's pretty good.
Have you ever seen a television show?
Thank you for not shooting me. Like,
you're right.
They live out there, you know. What a test group.
I would be absolutely thrilled to be wrong about that and get a new Fallout game in 30 weeks now, 31 weeks.
I would say even this much. It doesn't even have to be a release because, as we all know,
just be an announcement. Yeah,
exactly. And then you have to wait 7 years for Tears of the Kingdom. Sorry, Legend of Zelda all over again. I'm kidding. I'm not complaining. That game is just a masterpiece. But anyway, did you talk to Sharon D? No, nothing. Yeah.
She lost power.
Yeah, she predicted it. I'm going to just start off with the Great Plague of 77 and what people say they did and what they did. Are two different things.
Yep.
Right. So, and this ties in maybe with what happened to Rose, why she quote unquote died. These are things we should talk about.
I don't have anything to add.
Because you can't.
But it is,
Because nobody else was talking. She had to say something.
I had to fill the silence. I was awkward. Yeah. So.
We were told that Rose died. I don't remember if we got any more detail about that. Did we? And I'm just not remembering, or what do we know at this point?
Episode.
I think that they said that she died in the famine.
So we're just supposed to assume that maybe she starved?
Yeah, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, do we mean the same thing, by the way? Do we mean famine, or is the same thing as plague of 77?
Yeah, I think that I was referring to the same thing. I assumed it was a famine.
Sometimes you drop nuggets and I'm listening with bated breath. Wait, there was a famine too?
No. I mean, I meant the same event.
Which is 22 years ago.
Yeah, I took the plague to mean the same thing as like the blight. where it destroyed all the food and therefore people were starving. So I just assumed that she died in a famine, but I could be wrong.
The only thing I have to add, which is easy to miss, Lucy as she's being wheeled out by Snip Snip. I just love saying it. And now knowing that it's Matt Berry just tickles me.
Oh my gosh.
His name is Snip Snip. And that makes sense.
Snip, snip.
I have a Snip Snip in my shelter.
Oh my God.
She has a Mr. Handy in her shelter.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's what I was going to say. I didn't want to correct her.
Snip, snip.
No, it's literally called Mr. Snip Snip.
In your new
Nice.
shelter that you created just now, right?
Oh, because,
Yeah.
okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about the video game crossover, Dave. They're releasing
Updated
in-game
characters for a
specific
shelter.
things that
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
get.
Like I was saying with
Fallout
Michonne
Shelter.
and Rick and Survivor thing, whatever
So
it's
there's
called.
their cash
On the mobile.
grab.
That makes sense. Who cares? Whatever. People like it. I don't have anything. I don't have a problem
Honestly,
I
I
care
check
because
I check
I
it
also
once a
have
day, and
CX404.
I'm like, I get why I deleted
with it. I'm
this.
saying I don't
off.
hate it. I'm saying it's fine. It's you
I
do
just
it,
got a
live your life.
nondescript alien drone in mine. Like, not anything specific.
Well, so as Lucy's being wheeled out by Snip Snip, she's coming off the drugs that she was injected with from his syringer,
Yes.
syringer attachment, which makes sense for a doc bot
I
or
love that whole
a medical
interaction.
robot. So as she's coming out of it, you hear faintly her mother saying, "What are you doing out here?"
Mhm.
Tiny little tidbit. Where's out here? Out where? Interesting.
Out of your room,
Out of your
out in the
maybe quarantine.
cornfield that they had.
Out of your bed.
Yeah, what are you doing out here?
But out of your bed wouldn't be like out here. Where
Well, out
she
here
is.
as in out of the
Out of
room in
your
the public
bed.
space. Like,
Same.
what are you doing out
Yeah.
here? Like, out of the
Yeah.
living
Oh, your
area.
bedroom.
Like,
Bedroom,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But then your bedroom.
Well, they don't
Okay,
have
okay, anyway.
they maybe don't have blocked off bedrooms. You saw how the
Like a measly curtain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
one giant door for the whole place. And then,
Well, it just kind of makes me think, well, we know that her Pip-Boy was used outside the vault to get into 32. So out here, maybe she's trying to piece together something that we already know from Norman's point of view. I don't know. I'm not saying there's some sort of spooky beta S, which you can't say that anymore. Oh, that makes me sad. Spooky beta S, HIT. But
You just say stuff.
stuff, stoopy.
Shiz.
But I'm just saying, maybe she's figuring out something that she forgot a long time ago in relation to her mother.
yeah, I mean, I think it was a memory that she was having. And she
Right.
kind of came out of I will not elaborate.
So David
Yeah,
thinks
shut
that
it,
they're
Dave.
outside the vault. Right?
Well, maybe not. Maybe
That's
it was
what
on the
you're
way.
getting to?
Maybe I think so. Well, I don't know. But I wanted to mention this from the very first episode where we get to see her, Rose McLean. We see like a lens flary, solar flary.
Michael Bay.
J.J. Abrams also with Star Trek. But anyway,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
this is like more of a solar. This is my eyes, light. Anyway, didn't she look a lot like Alexa Nisenson? I just wanted to comment about that. She has this kind of Alexa Nisenson quality to her look.
No.
Okay. I just say look at her again.
You look at her again.
I did. I took notes. I said in my first
This is like
episode
when I
notes.
talk to my
said,
husband, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you have face blindness.
"Oh, that's mean.
Face
That's mean.
blindness.
He
Oh my
loves
gosh.
you dearly.
No,
you
because he'll
stupid
be
idiot."
like, that person looks like that person. I'm like, they don't at all
Oh.
look like that person.
I thought Lucy looked like Holly Curran, but I was
Right.
outvoted.
Well,
Outvoted.
she has the eye quality. Yeah, I think. But I should mention, by the way, Alexa Nisenson plays Charlie on Fear the Walking Dead. Just to make that super clear. If you haven't watched it, don't. That's fine. But
I don't know if I see
she
that.
has that sort of
but
quality. And if you see a
that's
picture
cool
of Alexa
that you
Nisenson,
do.
yeah,
Glad
I don't
that
know.
You see that.
I'm not saying
'Cause
her
you have
voice is the
face
same.
blindness.
And also the solar flares and just it just doesn't matter. It just reminded me of her, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh,
He
I'm not
looked
saying it
looked
is
directly
her.
at the solar eclipse, so he doesn't know what
And
people
saw.
look like anymore.
Right, I'm blind actually. Yeah, you're right. No, I'm not face blind. I'm just actual blind.
Actually
I
blind.
see a big solar spot where
Literally.
people's faces used to be. Anyway, all right. Well, nobody thought what I thought. That's fine. Maybe we'll get comments about it to validate my feelings.
Don't
I'm
worry,
sure
Carranza will have your
yeah,
back.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's not watching this. I'm disappointed in you and David Carranza.
And you're sexy, Dave. And you're sexy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he has face blindness or feelings blindness. I love him to death, but he's wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
I just want to say for me as a gamer, clearly I am traumatized by being ambushed by feral ghouls, because every time they make that sound, I got a chill down my spine. Yeah, it was.
So they captured it?
It was terrifying. Yeah, it was exactly the same, because as soon as I heard it when they were walking into the building with Roger, before they saw him, I was like, that's a feral ghoul. Why are you going inside? Like,
I heard you in my head.
Scared.
Not those. It shoots the Drano syringer. I say Drano, it's drain cleaner, but whatever.
It was such a good noise.
Cleaner. Yeah.
Taken from Abraxas.
And the ghouls, they did, again, just like with dog meat, they attack exactly like ghouls do. They come flying at you. She literally has to shoot Martha out of the air, which has been a thing that I have done before. As they're taking a flying leap at you, you just shoot them out of the air before they reach you.
Right, because it's the only time they don't course correct.
Right, exactly. They just go flying.
Right.
They can miss the target, because you can strafe, and they'll just hit the ground behind you. And it takes them a long time to get up. They did a really good job on the ghouls, just capturing the essence of that feral ghoul and how terrifying they are, especially because they're always in a giant pack. There's never just one. There's always a bunch of them, just like walkers, I guess. And they're a lot faster. So I guess arguably scarier, because you can just calmly walk away from a walker and probably be fine, but you have to run for your life with ghouls. They'll chase you down.
What were these kids doing? I mean, obviously they were taking in healthy people and harvesting their organs, but what are they doing with the ghouls?
Well, actually, I do know, because there are signs in front of the healthy ghouls, the non-feral ghouls. They're selling their internal organs. Ghoul organs.
Okay.
It's probably showing on the screen right now, but if you could keep your feral ghouls alive instead of harvesting the organs and putting them in a freezer, first of all, you save a little bit on energy. But for 500 caps, essentially, selling ghoul internal organs. Now,
what
the feral
would you
ghouls
need ghoul organs for?
If you're a ghoul, you would need ghoul organs.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay,
that's fair.
There you go. Now, wait. I noticed another sign in front of the feral ghoul doors. It's like the price is scratched
it was like
out.
Crashed. Yeah, I noticed there were several scratches.
And instead of 500, it's 100. It's like, okay, you deal with this.
Discounted parts. Yeah. I'm not touching
if you want the feral kind, you're probably going to have a hard time adjusting to them. You'll need more serum, which is why they're so cheap, probably.
Yeah.
So there's your answer.
Okay, that makes sense. I did not see all those details, so I appreciate that. I will say that they did a really good job in the Super Duper Mart, like the zooming in on the surgery instruments. That is such a common sight in Fallout. I don't know why, but a tray full of surgery instruments
with a faint hint of washed out blood.
Yep,
right? Video game colors.
Yeah, just randomly throughout the environment, you'll find something like that. All those visual callbacks, they're just doing such a great job of making it feel like a scene that you would see. Yeah, exactly. Anything that you would see in the games. And I'm always thrilled to point it out because I'm such a nerd about it.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Also, Francisco says, gotta have organ equality in the wasteland. So,
exactly. Ghouls have caps too. Like, I mean, come on.
Ghoul organs fail too. Ghoul lives matter, hashtag.
We finally get a little bit of Matt Berry's Mr. Handy and like all his canned responses, because you can tell he's a robot, right? And he's like, can I make your day better, ma'am? And she's like, no, thank you. Having to kill somebody for the first time.
Hope to be there someday.
And then he gets attacked.
He's like, where are you from? And she doesn't answer. And he's like, I've never been there, but I hope to someday.
I would love to go there. He's getting tackled by a ghoul and he's like, hello. And then as soon as he gets up and runs away, see you later. Like, just so funny.
Have a nice
oh my
day.
God. Have a nice day. Yeah. Like,
so he's like somewhat aware of what's going on, but like other times,
but they're clearly like,
so he's been messed with.
Yeah, they're clearly pre-recorded lines, but then it might also be because she electrocuted him right before that, so his higher processing might have gotten fried a little bit, so now he's just doing these very cookie cutter responses.
Well, because when she gets there, she's like, what the fudge? And he's like, there's no fudge here.
Yeah.
In response to what she says.
Right, because it's not in the inventory system.
She doesn't respond, and he still gives a response to that too.
So there is some sort of generalized intelligence, but it's very limited to his functions.
Codsworth in Fallout 4, he's your personal Mr. Handy. So if you didn't know, in Fallout 4, it begins before the war starts, literally right before. You rush and you get into the vault, you get cryogenically frozen, and then you wake up again and you go back to your house. And I won't spoil it for people who want to play the game. And you go find Codsworth, your personal Mr. Handy, and he kind of puts on a brave face. He's like, "Oh, it's so good to see you, sir," or madam, depending on if you're a female character. And he's like asking, "Where's the young Sean?" And then, you tell him what's going on. And then if you press him for information, "What's going on, Codsworth? Are you sure you're okay?" And he'll have a breakdown. He'll be like, "Oh, it's been horrible. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get nuclear fallout out of terrazzo floors?" Like,
Terrazzo?
or whatever kind of floor he has. Yeah.
I do remember Codsworth very well from playing, and he's great.
And he's like, "And the rust on the car." Like, he's having an absolute breakdown because he cannot perform his functions in a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah. But the fact that he's just been trying to do this for 200 years, again, thinking of basically every line that Snip has is great to me, because he's like, he's something about, "I've been here since before the nuclear war, which had to have been a week ago at least," which
his temporal sensors are not working.
Yeah, it's technically right, but definitely has been at least a week. Or 200 years.
Give or take.
The Mr. Handys can be as much of a character as anybody else.
Yeah.
And they're fairly sentient. Like, they know what their job is. They know they're a robot. They know they're supposed to take care of you and that kind of thing. And clearly cares about Lucy to an extent. He's like, "Oh, and you've lost a finger. We have to fix that." And then even though he's about to harvest her organs anyway.
Right. It's still part of his primary function to make sure
he's
the
got to
body
take
is
care
whole.
of her.
But then he still has to do... Okay, that's interesting. I was thinking of a parallel, because we see Wilzig go in the second episode. He dies, Plan D. They take his head off. But just like I want to see Wilzig again, I want to see Matt Berry's Mr. Handy again in some form or fashion, because just as the ghouls are attacking, what does one of the ghouls do? Basically, one of them tries to, I don't know if it was successful, I don't remember, but tries to take off one of the heads, or the eyes, I guess.
One of the eye stalks, yeah.
So it's an interesting parallel. They must be speaking to me. They're taking away the people I actually like in the show. I mean, I like all of them.
Should you see another Mr. Handy, he would be voiced the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a
all
treat.
the Mr. Handys are Matt Berry.
Yeah.
It's not the same, though. It's not the same.
Shut up. I did not know that. I just had to Google Matt Berry. I did not know that was his name.
Oh my gosh.
It's like she doesn't watch her episodes.
A name to the face. Yeah.
Mentioning Arizona.
I know the actor from Community. He was on an
Was he on
episode of
Community?
He was, yeah.
Yes, he was.
As what?
He played Roger Da Silva.
It sounds like a Matt Berry
Oh,
character.
man. Now it makes me want to watch that show, which I'll never do.
What?
Oh my god, I love Community so much.
I don't
Are you
rewatch
kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, stop it. I can't.
We talked about that 2 or 3 years. This is pre-pandemic.
I could talk about Community for flipping ever.
I love it.
Literally
so
forever.
It was
I love
in
it
the
so
works
much.
pre-pandemic, by the way. And it just, no, thank you.
He's the grifting 101 instructor.
He's great.
101.
He's great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one small thing. As Snip is also wheeling out Lucy, I don't know I'm focused on this, but there's that wide shot of the Dairy Fresh made in our own plant billboard in the store.
Yeah.
First of all, made in our own plant. You don't think about it when it's being said, but what does that mean? Made in our own plant? What other plant would it be made in? But then there's the little highlight treat of the neon milk droplets going from the
going
udders
straight from the udders
into the quart of ice cream, which is so bizarre.
Yeah.
So those two things together.
I was thinking that too. I was like, that billboard's a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. I don't know if I like that image. I don't know if I'd like to eat that ice cream.
And the words, for some reason, it's just made in our own plant. Wait, where is everything made usually? What's the competition doing?
It couldn't possibly be in China because we're so against that in the Fallout universe.
All American. Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe that's it. It's just an odd wording for us, but maybe in the show it is referring to not globalizing.
Yeah.
Not made in a Chinese plant.
Made in our own plant.
Yeah. America. Yeah. F yeah. Okay.
Is that normally what you would call a place that makes ice cream, though, a plant? Because I feel like plant
is not a good buzzword
in that context.
They're normally
it feels like chemicals and cars and stuff like that. It doesn't sound like
a dairy or a creamery.
Yeah.
This is from my years of expertise coming in from eating a lot of ice cream while living in Wisconsin.
Love it.
It's not just called Cold Stone. It's called Cold Stone Creamery. Okay, David.
I didn't know what it was called, but I knew it wasn't plant.
But there is an answer to that. There is a poster in the surgery room, essentially, where Snip Snip takes Lucy. It says something to the effect of loving chemicals. I'll maybe show it on the screen, but your life is better with chemicals, essentially. But then...
Yeah.
True.
A weird propaganda. Yeah.
So where they find Roger also in the medical clinic, let's say the Westfield Medical Clinic, I think it's called. There's a poster on the wall regarding radiation. It's like radiation is your friend. I couldn't make out all the words, but let me just say what I could make out. Radiation is our friend. Innovation and technology has allowed us to find solutions to improve your health. And then I think it says, and preventing cancer. Radiation gives you cancer. Yeah. Okay. But it also does save you from cancer. But it also heals
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently. Did you notice that the television is called Radiation King?
Yes.
So that thing's nuclear powered, obviously.
Well, and then the Atomic Queen Oven, too. So I like that those two things are very also enforcing gender roles. The Radiation King is the man sitting behind the TV, and the Atomic Queen is the woman standing behind the stove.
Making dinner. Yep. Yeah.
When I saw the green cross at the wellness clinic, I was like, oh shit, they're going to a dispensary.
Thanks, I have to bleep that out, but it's appropriate.
I will say that cross looked like the most video game thing I've ever seen in my life. That three-dimensional thing. I'm like, that's not a thing in Fallout that I am aware of, but the sign looked like a video game
sprite
signal. Yeah, like a sprite or a signal. I'm like, oh yeah, you see that in the distance and you're like, a clinic, healing or whatever.
Yeah.
It looked like they should have jumped up and punched the bottom of it and coins would spring out from the top.
Obviously a bundle would pop out.
Mario.
And then once you smoke it, you start flashing colors.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, is it psychedelic? Because
it's a star.
But magic stars.
It would be like more of the acid version of that, the acid music of that. It'd be like, and then it would slowly peter off as you're like, wait, what were we playing again?
Wait, what game is this?
Super Weed Brothers, folks. Let me read what Francisco wrote. David has bloaties from Fallout in his room. And I saw in the second episode, there was a cart that had bloaty steaks and stingwing meats.
Bloat flies.
Bloat flies? Bloat flies. Sorry.
Stingwings and bloat flies. Yeah, they're
see, I can't see F's.
Insects.
So it's bloaties. Bloaty steaks.
You have
what?
F blindness.
F blindness.
F blindness.
That's why you can't
FL
see
blindness.
faces, because it starts with an F.
Yeah, it starts with an F. You're all F U faces.
Bloat flies are freaking annoying. I'm just gonna say they just hover around and they shoot you with the little stinger things, and they're just really hideous and annoying.
Yeah, no,
they seem to dodge every attack, even if I use VATS to hit them, and it's just I hate them. So I'm just gonna say that.
And we talked about VATS in the last episode. Thank you.
Yes, I'm educating y'all. Y'all will have felt like you have played the game by the time we reach the end of this series.
That's kind of the point, I think.
Talk so much about it.
If I ever do play the game, I'm just going to conquer it in the first run. I won't even die because I'll know exactly.
No, you definitely will die immediately because it's that kind of game. I'm sorry.
But get used to it.
No, right now. On the mod thing, I just want the mod community for Fallout and Elder Scrolls is quite extensive. And they've started to let us add them in for consoles as well. One of my favorite ones, I've never used it, but I like to see it online. For Elder Scrolls, they used to mod all the dragons into Macho Man Randy Savage. And it's the most hilarious and stupid thing I've ever seen.
You see the voices?
It's great.
No, like literally it has like the mustache and the headband and everything. Like
and
the bandana.
Audacious glasses.
And the pants, like the underwear pants. Yeah.
Yes.
Literally the dragon would be Randy Savage. And then I'm pretty sure the shout would be like, "Oh yeah!" And
during a battle or something like that.
Yeah.
Just right before it breathes fire, goes, "Ooh, yeah!"
Okay, and then recently it surfaced that somebody made a mod that turns Death Claws into Macho Man Randy Savage.
Death Claws.
And the hilarity was the best thing. I just love it. It's stupid.
It's great.
I love it so much.
It's hilarious.
And they love it so much to do it. So I think it's great.
Macho Man.
I know, right?
I know, Bridget.
I love Macho Man.
I saw two Macho Men at 80s Fest.
I love that. Did either one of them have creamer in his pocket?
No.
Not accurate.
Nope. I know.
Maybe though.
Randy Savage's best promo of all time is one where he does this like, "Oh yeah, brother, I'm the cream of the crop." He keeps pulling little coffee creamers out of his pocket as he's doing it in his giant meaty hand. It's so funny. It's just look it up. It's excellent.
This is like for WWF, I guess, technically, right?
Yeah,
At the
WWF back
time.
in the day.
He comes out with Mean
when it was
Gene,
still
and he goes,
WWF.
"I'm the cream," and he pulls out
Yeah, I'm the cream.
Creamers.
just before a match.
Yeah, it's so good. It's one of his
my
best
gosh.
promos.
And then at the end, he goes, "Yeah!" And then like the cream just
It's
gushes
just-
through his fingers.
It's funny and it's I don't know. It's
crushing
just
it.
one of those things. And my family is like bonded over this promo.
Oh my gosh.
Mean Gene gets a couple drops on his face.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, let's cap this off with one thing, which is Lucy leaves the facility looking somewhat like a raider. Is it foreshadowing? Is it not? We'll find out. But the one thing I wanted to focus on was she goes, "Golden rule, mother effer." It's like her
Yes.
first swear word. Look, our little girl is
Yeah.
growing up to be a woman.
I'm so glad she has two boots again.
I know. She's got an armored vault suit and everything. She's a true lone wanderer. No,
Yeah.
it feels right. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah, yeah.
Got a 10mm gun
Right,
and
right.
2 boots.
When I saw the gun too, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that looks familiar."
10mm. It's like your bread and butter weapon.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
that's
I
going to
thought
get her
of
through
you
the tough times.
instantly.
Yes.
Well, also the game. I've seen it in the game, but then of course now I associate forever with Karina.
It's just me.
That's the clip. The clip is called
the
Forever
only one
Karina.
who's ever played Fallout.
I have a mod
yeah.
where Karina is every character in Fallout.
just me.
Yeah.
This is Karina.
Just me again.
That would be
You're
awesome.
propping up the franchise on Karina. So if you like what you heard, head over to ratethispodcast.com/Squawking Dead. 5 stars and eggplant is all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Most importantly, tell us after every episode. And if you really like what we're doing, do like Francisco did and just, he joined a membership tier, the Walkers tier, for as little as $1 a month on ko-fi.com/Squawking Dead. But you can also just follow us so that you can get the recording schedule so you can be here lending your thoughts to this chaos, apparently. But if you're really interested in helping us out, because we could certainly use it, you can buy us a coffee on Ko-fi, or you can join a membership tier on either ko-fi.com/Squawking Dead or patreon.com/Squawking Dead and support this journey. We're going to need it because, as I alluded to in the audio podcast for our second episode, not our last episode, I said June is kind of a make or break thing. There's a lot going on in June, not just The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, but The Boys is coming back. I think House of the Dragon is coming back. There's a bunch of shows that are coming up that
They're
we will
all coming
definitely
back in
want.
June?
A lot of shows are coming back in June.
Well, I don't
That's what I'm
like
saying.
that.
I don't like
June
it.
16th is The Boys, that I do know.
Isn't that annoying? And then, yeah, with Daddy Daryl's Day is when the premiere is going to be
Daryl
for.
Day.
All I'm saying is that we're going to be going into overdrive. We're going to be trying our best to see how we can do it, how we can cover these shows for you to enjoy. And if you really think we're worth the listen and you want to get our takes on these other properties, we can certainly use your help by the way of tips and membership tier joinings.
Help
And,
us, we're poor.
Help us, Obi-Wan. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Cosmom09, Rachel Birch, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, whose power went out midway into this tail end of the show, Bridget, ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster, that's PONKYBRUISETER, and Karina, who you can reach on Instagram at CARINAE_DE on Instagram. Take care, everybody. We'll see you very soon. And I can't wait to talk about the next episode because this episode was surprisingly, I felt, did you feel it too, shorter than the
Yes.
others?
Yeah.
It felt short, yeah.
It did feel short.
Yeah,
It was short.
which is manipulation to the highest extent. Don't you think? It's like, oh,
This is why I ended up binging it all at once, kind of, because I couldn't get enough. I'm like, that was too short. I need more.
exactly. And to Francisco's comment, talking about the games, I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime after a Deathclaw and Fallout encounter. So just like this show, hopefully it's shorter than 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think 30 minutes of that was banter, and I think there's a lot that's going to be cut out, but we'll see you in the next
How
one.
dare
I love
you.
We did laugh a lot.
How dare
did
you
so-
cut out all
so
my
much laughter to cut out.
quality material,
Yeah,
Dave.
so much laughing to cut out.
Ooh, yeah.
I didn't get to tell Sharon D, but my Ghoul-Aid joke felt like a Sharon D joke.
Better not cut out my Gary Vault stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Dave.
No,
Yeah.
it's gold.
Gary. Gary.
Karina.
Karina. All me.
Thank you yet again for making it to another episode of Squawking Dead as we cover Amazon Prime's Fallout. In particular, this episode, The Ghouls. Like I said just now, we're planning on doing a whole lot of things come June, and we could really use your help. And the timing is appropriate because you've reached the point of this podcast where we highlight both our Survivor and Whisperers tier members. First things first, of course, our Survivors tier member, our last remaining one, at RealRyanGM on X. You too could become a Survivors tier member. Survivors tier members receive a t-shirt right off the bat, as well as have the opportunity to receive 50% off in the merch store. But the defining feature, of course, is the ability to join us in our episode breakdowns on camera and mic. It's a privilege that they receive for their patronage. And on to our Whispers tier members, we've got at Judith.Morton on Instagram, Aiden Atkin, who you can reach on ko-fi.com/Aiden Atkin. On Facebook, we've got the following 3 Whispers tier members. We've got at Sandy.D.Morrison, at Lois.Martin.54, and at Kim.Rowley and the number 1. Last but not least, we have at I Found Them Rick G on X. Thanks again, and we really, really cannot wait to see you in the next one, or hear for you to listen to us in the next one. If you're listening on audio podcast, it's probably a good time to mention that we are on YouTube, and you will get a lot of the visuals, even though we do a pretty good job of explaining those visuals to you on the audio podcast on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/squawkingdead. But if you still prefer to listen to the audio podcast, you can always get some of those visuals in the blog, which is blog.squawkingdead.com. There's also a link to that blog entry in the podcast description. Usually takes a few days for us to post it. And if you don't want to miss any of our blog content, sign up for email alerts. When you click the blog, there's a field in the top right of the blog entry, or at the very top if you're looking at it from a desktop computer. In any case, we'll see you in the next one. And in the meantime, remember that we are Squawking Dead.